What is going on, YouTube people? Northeast Ohio Cards and Comics here today to talk about my worst purchases of the year. I've talked about some of these in various different videos throughout the year as I've made moves off them. Some of the cards I still have, I probably haven't talked about as much. But in general, as we kind of wind down the year, one, for just transparency's sake, and two, just for my own personal record keeping and kind of reviewing things and just putting it out there, I wanted to go back and make a nice little concise list of, I believe it's the five things that were my worst purchases of the year. We're going to do mostly sports cards. There is one comic book that sneaks onto the scene here though. But yeah, that's today's video. Like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff down below. And like I said, the purpose of this is more for my own historical time capsule thing that I could go back in another year and look back, learning exercise or whatever. And just to be 100% transparent that just because I have a microphone doesn't mean I know everything and that I get everything right. I get a lot of stuff wrong. I get a lot of stuff right. I get just as much wrong probably, or maybe slightly less because I do come out usually slightly profitable. Not always, but on these particular ones, whew, I got smoked. So let's go ahead and talk about them. Like I said, some of these you may have seen on the channel before or have come up in various other videos, but I wanted to put them all in one place for the end of the year. First up, the first two on this list, and right now we're in Market Movers in the My Collection tool, and I am looking at sold items, and I have this sorted down here by the ones that I have sold for the biggest loss. And the two cards on top are the first two that we are going to talk about. One is a card that we have just recently discussed on a video not too terribly long ago. That is the Luka Premier PSA 10. I purchased this card in April 18th, 2021 for $1,225. I just sold it not that long ago, about a month ago actually, 11/21, for $450. A 63% loss. $775 into the red. Ouch. So this card, base card bought at not the absolute peak of the market, but in the early days of the peak of the market. The reason I bought this card that I liked at the time was the low pop because it was select premier level. And I had grand aspirations of Luka making a deep playoff run. A couple things went wrong here. Panini decided to destroy select. Luka did not make a deep playoff run. While he had moments, they couldn't get over the hump and make it into the Western Conference Finals. And then, the market fell apart. The base card market fell apart even harder, and select fell apart even harder. So this card had all the bad vibes going about it. Next one on the list, also a base card, Donovan Mitchell. And I'm actually going to loop another card into here that I don't have on the spreadsheet because I traded it, but I lost my butt on it. And it was all purchased in the same lot. I purchased back in April. Once again, you see a trend here. Buying in April was apparently bad. I bought two optic-based Donovan Mitchell PSA 10s and a Donovan Mitchell Prism PSA 10 for about $800. The Prism at the time was going for around $450. The optics were going for about $225. I bought a lot of all three of them together for about $800, and I got crushed on this. So what went sideways here? These were purchased in anticipation of the Jazz making a deep playoff run. I liked them to win the West, quite frankly, at that point in time, and maybe they could have, but this went sideways the day it was delivered. I've told this story before. I bought these three cards. The day they got put in my mailbox was the day Donovan Mitchell twisted his ankle and was done for the rest of the regular season and basically wasn't the same the rest of the year. I just recently sold these two right before Christmas, 12/18. I moved the two Luka optic bases for $55 each for a grand total of $110. I was into it for $450, a 76% loss, down $340. Now, could I have held on to these for the NBA playoffs and for a potential spike? Yes, I could have. That could have 100% been a play. And I'm sure some people will say, hey, you could have sold these for higher. if you held them. That very well may be true. It also very well may not be true. We don't know. I'd still like Donovan Mitchell. I actually wouldn't mind buying some Donovan Mitchell, but I would prefer Donovan Mitchell silver at these decreased prices, not base, and not optic base or like an optic hollow. This was a matter of I wanted some cash on hand, and these were some of the lower end cards that I could move. The Mitchell Prism I traded at the Shipshawana trade night. So I got $200 in trade value for that card. So I lost 50% on it basically. And I moved that in conjunction with my LeBron Chrome PSA 10 for a total of $1,200 in trade value for the Juan Soto Bowman's Best PSA 10 auto, rookie auto. I actually think I did pretty well on that. I probably did well enough on that to make up for the loss on the Mitchell Prism. I assume the Choctaw Chrome 10 has gone down since then. I also assume the Prism base has continued to gone down since then. And I think I got into the Bowman's Best auto undervalued to begin with. So I feel like I did okay on that one, but I definitely took a massive hit because I got only $200 in trade value for it when I paid $400 for it, which is not ideal. So those are the first two. Next on the list, poster child for the channel. Super zoomed out on this. The Deshaun Watson PSA 10 silver that I purchased on StarStock. I've talked about this card a ton. I bought this on 3/16, I believe the day or two before the news came out about the massage parlors. Paid $1,250 for it, silver PSA 10 Prism. Immediately sold it the next day for a $300 to $400 loss. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this one because I've talked about it a ton already. This one, I don't know that there's a major lesson to be learned here in regards to the buy. I bought it because I thought the news was about to ramp up about him getting dealt, and I thought it would spike again off that news. And I just, to be quite frank, and I don't like to blame it on stuff like this very often, but I'm going to pull the card on this one. I just got unlucky on this one. I had no way of knowing that that news was coming out the next day. And if I would have, I obviously wouldn't have bought it, but there was no way to predict that happening. That's just one of those things that sometimes happens when you deal with real life players. When you have assets based around real life people, those real life people can do dumb things in regards to getting, and can also get hurt. So that's the risks that we take when we buy pieces of cardboard with pictures of men on it. These are sometimes the things that can happen. They can backfire on you sometimes. This was the case that happened. It was what it is. I did learn the good lesson here about just selling for the loss and getting the money back out of it and making the next play. Which again, that's been covered a ton on the channel. So that's number 3. Number 4 and number 5, there's a few different directions I could go here, and I still own all these cards. So we're going to flip back over to my collection tool, but the cards that I currently own, not the ones that I am looking, or not the ones that I've already sold. So the two that I'm going to pick from this list are first, the Trae Young Red Mosaic. Now, I still absolutely adore this card. I just bought it in October. I spent $900 on it. It is currently at $470. It's down 48%. I still really believe in this card. Does it get back to $900? I have no idea. But it's a very low pop color match. It's an absolutely gorgeous looking card. Everyone loves it. Anytime I bring it to a trade night or a show, everyone asks about it. I think it's pop 24 or 25. It was under 30 last time that I looked. And I have no problems holding on to this card. So even though it is down quite a bit, I am not in a hurry to move this one. Now, the other two things that you see on here that I'm down quite a bit on, dollar value wise, but not so much percentage. And I care more about the percentage. You know, this one I was down 48% on. The two LeBron cards, I am down a decent chunk dollar value wise. You know, I bought the Chalk Toss for $2,300. It's currently at $1,650. I do know there's one on bids right now on eBay that's already higher than this one, so I expect this to get a little bump back up. But I'm down $650 on that, but it's only 28%. And then same with the Topps Chrome PSA 8 that I bought back in the summer. I paid $2,100. It's down to $1,700, a $400 loss, but that's only a 20% drop. And when I bought these cards, these were not short-term flips when I purchased them. So I am not that upset that these have gone down a little bit. I am perfectly fine to ride the waves with these ones. So I'm not necessarily counting those two. However, However, comments are going to love this one. The comment section, oh boy. Basically anything that I bought Baker has been an absolute disaster. I have this one in my Market Movers, my collection. I have a couple others that aren't because they're RPAs and they're just not listed. They're not in Market Movers because they're super low pop. There's only 10 or 15 of them or whatever. But we'll use the Optic Holo 10 as the stand in here. I paid $610 for this on July 12th. Currently going for $276, a 55% decrease. Now, I will say, I did not buy a lot of the Bakers for investment purposes. I bought them because he was the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, and I believed in him, and I liked him, and I still like him to this day, even though the comments will probably roast me for this. I would like to see what he could do with an actual healthy season, not COVID problems, not having 17 different injuries, and maybe actually having some weapons around him besides Jarvis Landry and 18 different tight ends. Yes, he has really good running backs. Yes, the offensive line is really good, but that team has absolutely no wide receivers. Landry is good, but he is not number one good. Donovan Peoples-Jones has showed some flashes, but not that great. But enough excuses. Baker's been god-awful this year, and I've lost my ass on pretty much everything that I have bought of his. Now, I did move off some of the lower-end stuff before the season started. So I did take some profits off of some base stuff because I bought the Optic Holo. For full disclosure, what do I have left on Baker inventory? I have the Optic Holo. I have a Prism Base PSA 10. I have a Select Field Level PSA 10. I have the National Treasures booklet, and I have the Flawless RPA still. All that stuff I am way down on. I have no idea what the Flawless would sell for now. I'm sure I would lose money on it if I did try to sell it. I'm not necessarily really looking to sell it. Or trade it or whatever. So Baker stuff, not pretty. So those are the 5 cards. And then I have a bonus 6th one for a comic book. So let's flip over to that real quick. Okay, so flip over here to GPA analysis. GPA analysis is like the Market Movers version of comic books. It's nowhere near as fancy. It's nowhere near as cool. It doesn't have all the tools available to it. But it does do some loose price tracking and all that stuff. It's not bad. It's just not what I'm used to on the sports card side of things. But the one that was a bad buy that I've lost a decent sum of money on is Ultimate Fallout 4. You can see it right here. This is the first appearance of Miles Morales. I paid $9.75 for this. It is currently at $640. This is the second print. I do not have a first print. I went with a second print 9.8 instead of a 9.6 first print. It wouldn't matter which one I bought. They have both come down. Whether I bought the 9.6 second print or I'm sorry, the 9.6 first print or the 9.8 second print. Sorry, that's very confusing. It wouldn't have mattered. They've both come down since I bought it. I bought this at the absolute worst time possible. I bought this at the pure peak or near the pure peak back in the spring. So I think I got mine right here in March. The average price range was $880 to $1,300. I got mine in early March. I remember after I bought it, it did go up. It had actually crested over $1,000, got up to like $1,100, $1,200, I think, for a hot minute, and then came crashing back down again. Now, I do still believe in this long term, which is what I bought it for. I've made this very clear. I don't buy comic books to flip per se. I buy them more to collect. I know the evil investor / flipper actually collects stuff. Who would have thought it? But I do buy comic books more to collect than flip. I do still think this has good long-term potential. I can see a path to this getting back to $1,000 again. I can 100% see that happening. He comes to live action. Look out. This thing's going to go crazy, in my opinion. Some of the other stuff, the base Donovan Mitchell, the Luka Select Premier, I don't see a path for that stuff to spike back up to what I paid for it. That is why I sold it. That is why I got rid of it. This, I see the path and I am willing to hold and ride it out. So that's kind of the difference between, well, why did you sell this stuff over here and why are you holding this? Lucas Select Premier, I would be shocked if that is ever even $1,000 card again, let alone a $500 card again, to be quite honest with you. And this, I can 100% see Ultimate Fallout 4 second print 9.8 being $1,000 again. I can 100% see that happening. Will it happen next month? No, I don't think so. But in a year or two, Sony and Marvel throw Miles in a live action thing, or he falls out into the Spider-Verse and all of a sudden it's a real life Miles Morales standing there on the screen, all his stuff's going to go absolutely ridiculous. So that's the difference between why I am still holding on to something like this, whereas the other stuff I have moved off of. Same thing with like the Trae Young. I still really believe in this card. I am willing to hold on to this because I still believe in the player. Not that I don't believe in Luka, but I believe in a low pop color match, great looking card, super sexy looking. And then the Baker stuff, if I was going to move off of it, I would wait until the spring. There's no sense moving it right now. It's the absolute bottom of his value. But I could see that stuff creeping back up again. If the Browns sign new weapons, I could see Baker stuff not necessarily getting back to what I paid for it, but being more in demand. Or if he would get traded or cut or moved to another team, that usually in general gives things a natural little bounce to it. So if I wanted to move off the Baker stuff, I would. As long as he's a Cleveland Brown, I am in no hurry to move the Baker stuff. Browns are my boys. I don't really care. If they got rid of him, I would probably look to move off the stuff because he's not the quarterback of the team anymore. So, I'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. But those are my worst buys of the season. Worst buys of the year for 2021. All these were purchased in 2021. There's this jaw down here that I'm down 54% on, but that was bought in 2020. So that doesn't count for this. So that's where we sit. Curious for your thoughts and opinions down below. Is there one particular thing that was what was your worst buy of the year? That's what I want to know. What was the worst decision you made for a buy? Which one blew up in the face the worst? Leave it in the comments down below. Catch you guys and girls on the next one. Peace.